Like to start with, since we're recording, just like formally introduce yourself.
Yep. Are we gonna go ahead? Do you want to go ahead and just start?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hi. Hello. Okay. So thank you for joining us. This is Embark Expeditions webinar about Rwanda. We're going to talk about gorillas, of course, but we're going to talk about everything else that Rwanda has to offer, as well as we already have some questions in the chat. So go ahead and throw questions in the chat. We'll come back to them. Um, and I have a little bit of a slideshow, and then we'll do Q&A. But if anything comes up, just let me know. I'm going to start with who we are. So, both Carrie and Donovan are on this call. They are the founders of Embark. They started the company in Tanzania. So, East Africa is the backbone of this company, as well as doing hiking and trekking adventures all over the world. We also do adventure travel. So, for me, I do Africa. It's a little bit about me. I grew up going to Africa. I'm obviously from California, if you listen to me, but my parents are from Southern Africa. I've traveled all over. I have to say, you shouldn't pick favorites, but I have definitely a special spot in my heart for Rwanda. I have completely fallen in love with it. Um, and I think, and I'll talk a little bit more about this, but I think because of the size of the country and the incredible turmoil they've been through, the people, obviously the gorillas are amazing, chimpanzees, all of that is fantastic, but the people are so phenomenal. I am sure, I know at least some of you have been to Africa already, so I'm going to skip the overarch um, and just start with Rwanda. So we're here, East Africa, inland. So we're bordering Tanzania, here's Kenya, Uganda to the north, Burundi. Um, to give you an idea, so 14 million people in a little over 10,000 square miles. That is a third of Ireland in terms of how big the country is, with many more times the people. So it is an incredibly densely populated country. Because of that, the three national parks are kind of on the outskirts. And each one of those national parks is its own success story. So, besides being home to about a third of the mountain gorillas, because the Virunga Mountains run right here through these countries, um, they also have a variety of other primates. So, we'll talk about those as well. Starting with a map, I love a map. Three major parks. So, Virunga Mountains, this is where you find the gorillas. Golden monkeys. The Twin Lakes are up here. They're so small, they're not even on the map. Mount Muhabara is up here. You can hike to Dian Fossey's grave. Nungwe National Park, ancient forest. I felt like when I stepped in that forest for the first time that I was going to see little velociraptors like going down the pathway. It just feels old in your bones. Incredible hiking, chimpanzees, birding. Also, this is typically where you start the Nile um, Congo Trail, which will go up the side, and we'll talk about this. And then all the way over here, bordering Tanzania, is Akigira. This park has been completely rehabilitated since the days of the genocide. The, I'll talk a little bit more about it, but I have to say, when I went, I was so impressed by the wildlife. I was not expecting to be wowed by the wildlife after a lifetime of going to Africa. It was amazing. I'm going to start with Volcanoes National Park. Keith, I know you've already done this, so this will all look very familiar to you. When you arrive in Kigali. It's about 3.5 to 4 hours drive. I highly recommend the driving aspect of Rwanda because it is so small. You see so much. The infrastructure is excellent. And you really get a feel for the country that you're in. There are helicopter transfers if you don't want to drive, or if you want to cut out some of the driving time. We can definitely do that. But especially for most people, I feel like starting with a drive gets you into it. Um, I like to do, if you can, you arrive at night, get into Kigali, stay the night, get up, meet your guide. I like to do the Dian Fossey center that first afternoon when you arrive. It says the Ellen DeGeneres campus. I ignore Ellen DeGeneres. She did fund it. She doesn't know anything about gorillas. That's not fair. I'm sure she knows something about gorillas. Um, this is where I like to start the trip because you go in, it talks about all of the habituated gorilla families that are there. It talks about Diane Fossey, her legacy. It's a really fantastic introduction. Um, and then even before we get to gorillas, I like to do the first full day with these guys. They're golden monkeys. They are typically on the outsides of the forest, like the edge of the forest, because they like to go in and raid all of the farms because they're monkeys and that's what monkeys do. So this picture here is one from my group. Unlike gorillas, where it's only 8 people at a time, the golden monkeys, very chill. So we had a group of probably about 30 people the last time I did it. So it is a nice kind of introduction. Get a little bit of an idea about what you're in for the gorillas. All of the walks start out like this through farmland. There's goats, there's paths, there's mud. You can see the rain boots. We'll come back to that. But the golden monkeys is a nice sort of beginning. They are very gregarious, if I can say that, and they're really fun. Then you start with gorillas. So I took this little video and I think it's helpful to see. So gorillas there, trying to get to them here. Pause it just for the sound. So when you go in, this was our team, some of our porters, 8 people maximum. If you want to private climb, you can take out all 8 permits. It's great. Goes directly to the gorillas, but otherwise you'll be mixed together with other people. You get up in the morning, you go to the ranger station and they will divide you. So your guide will say, hey, I have this lady from the US who has a terrible knee. Can she maybe not do the furthest one? Or I have these guys from Switzerland who want to hike 75 miles. Let's give them the really far away family. So then the rangers will talk together. They'll figure it out. You are assigned a family and then you trek until you find that family. Once you see the gorillas, you have an hour with them. Now, if the gorillas are moving, they will pause the timer and then you can follow them. And then when you see them again, they will start the timer again. It just depends on what you get. You know, I only checked for 2 hours on the way there, and the gorillas were moving towards the edge of the forest. So it was only 1 hour on the way back. I've had clients do trek for 5 or 6 hours. I will say I've been doing this for over 20 years. I've never had clients not see gorillas. If you can excuse the double negative. Every person I've sent to Africa for gorillas has seen gorillas. Many people, if you are a photographer, you want to do 2 treks because you could have trees, branches, visibility not great, really raining. My gorilla pictures are all soaking wet. They don't look the happiest gorillas. So if you're really keen on the photos, I recommend 2 treks. I just put in this picture about what to take because it is a rainforest and it is quite high elevation. So I do a full packing Zoom call with everybody and run through it all, but waterproof everything, warmth, layers. Porter will carry your backpack, help you over the muddy spots, or in my case, pull you up through the ravine if you slip in the mud. These guys are amazing and they do this every day. My guide the last time I was there was one of the few female guides. Rwanda's really putting money into training their female trekkers to be female guides. And this is how close you can get. So it really depends. You know, you can see this was a beautiful sunny day. And this is a giant silverback. Otherwise, you know, you can get a, I'm so sorry, that's my, so sorry. Wildlife at home. The rule for the gorillas, they can touch you, you can't touch them. So if they come up to you, and it does happen sometimes, they might brush past you. That's, you know, it is what happens. It is very, I would say very safe. I've never once heard of anybody, a tourist being threatened by a gorilla. But otherwise, you keep a little bit of a distance. After the gorillas have a sleep, you're excited, and then I feel like then you can really focus on the rest of the things that Rwanda has to offer. So from Volcanoes National Park, you can go out to the Twin Lakes, villages, markets, kayaking, fishing. It is a very sort of, I would say, a classic lake district, right? You get it in Colombia, you get it in Minnesota, you get it in Switzerland, kind of a just relaxing time. Mount Muhabara is one of the peaks in the Virunga chain. That is a full day hike. You start at 7 a.m. And it typically takes between 6 and 9 hours to climb all the way. So that is a full day. You can also, like I said, hike up to Dan Fosse's grave, which is 4 to 5 hours. Um, and then from here, so these are the Twin Lakes. If you think back to our map, which I will go back to the map. So we've been up here. We're now going to go down past Lake Kivu to Nungwe. So this is, if you drive the whole thing at once, 5 to 6 hours. Kind of depends on how long you want to stop, what you want to see on the way. Um, Nungwe, like I said, is wild. I was completely unprepared for something that felt so ancient, and there's hardly anybody there. You know, people go for the gorillas and then they leave. And there's so much more to Rwanda, and it's such a small country as opposed to Uganda, which I will touch on a little bit later, um, that you can really see everything in one visit, which is amazing, and driving. So, Nungwe National Park, known for birding, known for hiking trails, and chimpanzees. The chimpanzee trekking is hectic. These guys are very wild. I don't see a lot of people. Um, Definitely use your porter. It's just an incredible, incredible experience. They don't care that you're there, but they don't, um, they're not interested in you like other places where the chimps are a little bit more habituated. They're used to people, they want to get in your bags or whatever. These guys are just doing their own thing. Um, and then after chimpanzees, the canopy walkway here is incredible. Like I said, birding, I put a couple of in here, sunbirds, because I love sunbirds and the turacao. Um, and then there's also 13 other primate species. So black and white colobus, obviously very pretty, so they get the starring spot in this, but there are all kinds of monkeys, big and small, before you get to the chimpanzees. This is also the start down here in the south of the Congo Nile Trail. 141 miles. You can hike it, you can cycle some of it. It's a mix of things. Typically, what we see is we'll do gorillas, do a couple days in Nungwe, and then maybe do 2 days of this hike. Because a lot, does get a little repetitive. You want to see a lot of things. You've flown all the way to Africa. Um, but it's a really, really cool experience. Very different, again, because you are going around the lake. Rwanda is known as the land of 1,000 hills, and you will really feel it here. There's a lot of undulations, there's a lot of elevation change, come across villages. Kind of depends on how many stops you want to do, how long you have, but it's an easy thing to just pop a couple days of this entire trail into your trip. Akagira. This guy down here, for non-birders, is a spoonbill, basically a dinosaur of a bird. They haven't evolved in years and years and years because they don't need to. They are one of those birding species that you want to cross off your list. Akagira doesn't say they have spoonbills. It's not technically a destination for them, but they see them regularly enough that I think they're worth putting in here. So Akagira, like I said, was completely decimated during the genocide. The animals were hunted and killed mostly for sustenance. But there is an incredible nonprofit called African Parks that has brought in, like, these lions came in from Kenya. They've brought rhinos in from South Africa, elephants in from South Africa, general game in from other parts of Africa, some from Uganda. And the park is thriving. There are now two camps that are open all year round. Um, they're right on the lake, so you can do boating, you can do walking, you can do night drives. The guides are, in my un in my opinion, I think they're ex-poachers. And the guide that I had most recently, I think he was an ex-poacher not all that long ago. He knew every piece, every blade of grass. You don't expect to go to these newer parks and these newer places that have opened and have guides with that amount of expertise. It was really incredible. And I saw the big five in two game drives, which is also not what you think of when you think about Rwanda. Couple of notes about where you'll sleep. So Rwanda has, in general, a super, super, super high luxury level, and then kind of backpacker level. There's not a lot in between. Um, Singida Kwatanda is one of my favorite places ever. My room is bigger than my house. It's amazing. They do incredible conservation and sustainability and community work. That's a luxury one. Amakorosanga, it's small. It's, I would say, an American 3 star, maybe 3.5. Fabulous, fabulous food. Weirdly, some of the best food. And up here, because you're quite high up, it's proper rooms. Most of the rooms have fireplaces because it's cold. Nungwe, there's one luxury lodge, there is one eco lodge, and then there's a bunch of random stuff outside of the forest. So basically, these are your two options. Because Rwanda tourism is still up and coming, there's not a ton to choose from. Um, the one and only I would normally avoid like the plague because they just don't understand Africa. They are an international luxury brand, but you cannot beat that location. They're on a tea plantation, and then the forest is right there. Mananzi Eco Lodge is these funny little A-frames. Great location. Definitely, I would say, an adventurous experience. Akigira, two camps currently open all year round. Magashi Peninsula isn't even open yet. It's going to be a super high-end 5 star. And then the little sister classic Magashi camp is your classic ensuite Meru style tent, but bigger. So you have a real beds, you have ensuite bathrooms. Everywhere you go with us, ensuite bathrooms, flushing toilet. Non-negotiable. We don't want you to get, wandering around in the dark. Some logistical things. You can fly in and out of Kigali. If you want to combine Rwanda, like so many people do, gorilla trekking with safari, there's a direct flight from the Serengeti to Kigali. It makes an amazing connection because you can have breakfast in the Serengeti and then be in Volcanoes National Park for dinner. There is a visa on arrival. You get it in cash. We have somebody who walks you through the whole process. You don't need any vaccines. Gorilla trekking permits. This is a big one. $1,500 per person per trek. Those are non-refundable, non-transferable, and must be paid in full to confirm. Now, with that said, that money goes directly to the park, directly to the guys who stay with these gorillas 24/7. They are always with people. There are always rangers there to keep an eye on them. And that is how we as a humanity is helping to conserve these animals. So when you are putting down that money, it's a lot of money, but you can know and feel confident that it's going to a good place, and the proof is in the pudding, right? We are able to still go see these gorillas because this is working. I talked a little bit about helicopter transfers. I talked about gorillas, chimpanzees, big five. And then in terms of travel, it's a rainforest. Volcanoes National Park is a rainforest. It's going to be rainy. However, you can avoid the most rain April, May, or November.